Hi, I'm Ewan, one half of Pine Tree Records. I'd like to tell you a story, my story anyway, about Stay True. It's making 30 years since this record was released. I speak to you from my classroom and the school vinyl group. We have a vinyl group here at the school and we meet once a week to play records, and we certainly played this one. But Stay True, recorded in Triple X Studios in Harlesden, not far from the railway station, in this industrial estate. Engineered by the great Steve Cherry. Steve Cherry, last we heard of him, he was living in Denmark, so big hi to Steve Cherry if you're out there. Great engineer as well. The band featured Avril Wilson there, vocals, and Paul on guitar, and we had Mike Dolbear on drums. Mike Dolbear we never heard of since. Avril left a few months after the album was completed and went back to Lee near Wigan, where she came from. Last thing we heard about her was in the late 1990s. She'd been dumped by her boyfriend, who was a singer in a group called Five, and she sold the story to the News of the World. We pressed 500 of these with a company called SRT, based in Cambridge. Now, this record, like all of our records, were cut at Abbey Road Studios in the Penthouse Suite, long before the great Sean McGee was there cutting and mastering the new Beatles vinyls. We were in there, and every Pine Tree Records release was cut at Abbey Road. And Paul and myself used to love going to the Penthouse Suite. I think we paid, in those days, I think about £150 per hour. But the engineers there used to like to see people who came to master their own records. And this is why you'll also see on every Pine Tree release, on the dead wax, there's always a message. The message on side A on this one was, "Where are those years?" And on the other side was, on the B side was, "Scared to be happy." The mastering at Abbey Road for the singles took about half an hour. We were there for about an hour with this. And one of the great things about going into Abbey Road, you get to look at all the famous studios. Also, the bar in Abbey Road, there was a cellar bar, and we always went to the bar afterwards. Never met anybody famous, by the way. I used to drink Worthington's White Shield, a bottle conditioned beer, and they were one of the few places that ever had that. So, but fond memories of going to Abbey Road and the cutting. If you do have one of these albums, by the way, you're very, very fortunate. We pressed 500 of them, and any stock that was left over was destroyed, along with a lot of other Pine Tree Records releases, in a fire at my mother's house a few years ago, where all the stuff was kept in the loft. Everything was destroyed, burnt to cinders. So if you've got one of these, you're very lucky. We sold about 150 via Pro Plus in Liverpool, and we never saw a penny from it, so there was no money made from this at all. Well, if you look at the tracks on the album, we're just playing now Will It Ever End? But going from Someone Else's Love, this was covered by a Spanish group in 2006 called the Magic Whispers. And in fact, on one of the websites, if you Google the Magic Whispers, you'll find a list of their songs, and on the top 50 song of their songs, the number one song is Someone Else's Love. So Someone Else's Love has been given a second life thanks to the Magic Whispers. White as Snow, Paul wrote about the singer on the first single, Alison. So Alison, if you're watching this, that was all about you. Can You Hear Me? That's a decent track, but this album stands up today, I think, for the quality of the songs, also the clarity of the pressing as well. Because we only pressed 500, all these came from one stamper, and therefore really good quality. So the album itself the photograph was taken in Ainsdale, where we came from, in the Pine Woods. The colour of the sleeve actually was terrible. It should really be more of a cool blue, or I think maybe it was Air Force blue, a much darker blue. This way it looks like the Uruguay football shirt. But you know, I think an album 30 years later still stands up. I'll put maybe some links below for the Magic Whispers version of Someone Else's Love, which is also on YouTube, and maybe a couple of websites to do with the Magic Whispers. So I think as it says on side A, where did all those years go? Well, for me, I ended up coming into the classroom and teaching. And Paul, what did Paul do? He gave up his musical career for gardening. Bit of a waste to spend his time with the weeds, but you know, the music was always more important. But for Paul, the garden and the weeds. Avril, if you're there watching this, put tell us a comment, tell us where you are now. Anyway, hope you enjoyed this. 30 years to stay true, and there won't be any more of these anyway.